What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode. Last time out we were at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, and despite the fact that we had a particularly strong start, we made up 8 positions on the opening lap. Within the first 5 laps of the race, we had a mechanical failure which saw us retire and score no points. It was very disappointing because we were on a streak of 3 finishes without scoring points before that. That now extends to 4 as a result of that DNF. 2 of those last 4 races have been DNFs. Hungarian Grand Prix as well was another DNF for us. Again, we were running in a podium position during that race, and then in Belgium and the Netherlands we just had absolutely zero pace. So we finished outside of the points. It was incredibly disappointing to not walk away with a point from Monza after a start like the one we had, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to bounce back. It's not going to be easy because we find ourselves coming to the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore now, which is not a circuit I would traditionally say is a strength of mine at all. You can see there it was an MGUH failure that hit us last time. Yeah, it's a track that I really struggle around quite significantly. I feel like I have very little pace on here, especially when I race online. I at times in qualifying have been multiple seconds behind my contemporaries, and for that reason I really don't see how we're going to have a good race here unless we do something quite special, quite spectacular. I think unfortunately we're going to be, maybe we might just be able to sneak into the points in sort of like P9, P10, something like that, but I don't think we're going to be picking up big points here, and we kind of need to really, because McLaren and Alpine are starting to close us down in the Constructors' Championship. We need to score some good points, otherwise we're going to fall behind those guys, and that is the last thing we want right now. We are fighting for P6 in the Constructors' Championship to get that sponsorship bonus, and at the moment we're currently sitting in P6 in the Constructors' standings, and actually the Drivers' standings as well. We're only a few points behind Kevin Magnussen in 5th. And we need to start scoring some more points if we want to get that 5th or that 6th place finish in the Constructors wrapped up, because like I said, McLaren and Alpine really are closing us down quite quickly, and the last thing we want is to be usurped by them at the last second. So we're just gonna have to do what we can, and we're gonna have to try and push as hard as we can in these final 7 races of the season, starting with Singapore, of course, but then we have a number of other races coming up, some of which I do think are going to go a little bit better than this one are going to go. We didn't get off to the best of starts here. You can see that we are not in the top 14, and not only are we not in the top 14, but we're just a long way off. I don't know exactly the position we were in, but it wasn't particularly close to the front runners. Obviously, I know that kind of thing can be a little bit misleading, because in some of the races going into this one, some of the ones beforehand, we did have good pace in practice, and then we were nowhere in the race. And likewise, I've had races in the past where I've been nowhere in practice, and then we've managed to pull it out of the bag in the race. Finally, we're able to get some more durability upgrades on the car, so we're going to try and do that in the hopes of jumping at least a few cars in the durability department. We have the worst durability on the grid, and it goes to show based on the fact that we've been retiring left, right, and center lately. We've had 3 DNFs already this season. Actually, is it 4? No, I think it's 3, isn't it? No, it's 4. It's Baku, Miami, Hungary, and Monza. So yeah, we've had 4 DNFs so far this season, and I'm really hoping that we can finally start to turn the tides and maybe start to grab a few points. So yeah, I think the target here is simply just going to be to finish in the top 10. Even if we don't qualify in the top 10, if we can just grind our way through the field to finish in the top 10, that would be the ideal scenario. But we've got a lot of work to do before that, and that all starts here in qualifying Q1 on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, rounding the final corner, crossing the line, taking a 1:38.2. It is fast enough for P2 initially. However, I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I think getting into the 1:37s will be easily possible. It wasn't my finest lap, and indeed you can see I actually went out on the same set of tyres again and still managed to find a little bit of improvement. We're almost 4 tenths up as we come up to the final few corners now. We were in 13th. So it was a little bit of a gamble, but we do cross the line. We improved by 3.5 tenths, and in the end, that is good enough to see us through to Q2 in P7. So yeah, a very solid result. But there were also a number of other interesting results about that session, which you're about to see. Obviously, these are all the people that got through. You know, I'm not really seeing anyone that I'm overly surprised by, but you may notice few emissions. And Dennis Hauger was 1,000th of a second ahead of Sergio Perez, which means that my teammate knocked out both Red Bulls from the session, basically. Perez and Verstappen in 17th and 18th. What a terrible result for the team, who is supposed to be contending for the Constructors' title, and both of their drivers at points during this season have looked like they were involved in a championship fight. Now just completely out of it in Q1. And yeah, that is not what they would want at all, but that's the way it's gone for them on this occasion. We're now through into Q2, and you can see that once again we're on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. We're around the final corner. It's a 1:37.5. That is our best lap of the weekend so far. It beats out that run we did on the used tyres in Q1 to get ourselves the P7, and no surprises, we're therefore in P5 come the end of the session. As we do go around on the same set of tyres again, we don't improve. It's not a great lap. I think we got blocked at the start as well, which didn't help. And yeah, it's a 1:38.2. Not fantastic, but it doesn't matter because we're through to Q3 anyway in P5. And wow, that is a solid result for us. Very strong, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully we can find our way through to a top position in Q3. Only a few surprises really here. Bottas and Sainz, I guess you might expect to get through. Tsunoda, Ocon, Hulkenberg, and Hauger all out as well. You wouldn't really expect anyone other than Hauger to be eliminated. I think in Q1 the other eliminations were the two Williamses, De Vries and Gasly, if I remember correctly. But what this means is that there are 9 different teams in the top 10 here. And the only teams not represented are Red Bull and Williams. But yeah, we have the McLarens, both Aston Martins. We have an Alfa Romeo of Joe, a Mercedes of Russell. We've got myself in the Jaguar, Albon in the Alfa Tauri, Leclerc in the Ferrari, Magnussen in the Haas. I think that's everyone. But yeah, there is a very diverse mixture of people. Did I mention Joe in the Alfa Romeo? I don't remember. But either way, yeah, very diverse range of people in the top 10, and we're going to see if we can break through as many of them as we can. This is a good opportunity for us because it means there's quite a few weaker teams with at least one driver in the top 10. So yeah, we're going to be through, and it is a 1:37.0 to kick the scoring off there. And, well, actually, that's already good enough for pole position here. So this lap that I'm on at the moment, I don't think matters. I think everyone else has already crossed the line, from what I understand. So as long as we you know, don't accidentally get ourselves a grid penalty somehow, this is going to be pole position at Singapore to take my 3rd pole position of the season. It's a little bit of an anticlimax, almost. You feel it's kind of the same thing that happened in France, where you know, we just had so much pace on the initial lap that we didn't even have to improve on the second lap. But I've improved by a crap load anyway, almost 6/10 as we cross the line. It's a 1:36.4.
Fantastic, you've got pole position.
And that is pole position by a country mile. That is pole position by over 6/10 as you're about to see. What a lap.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Robinson,
Norris,
and Fernando Alonso. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Well, we didn't just get pole position, we absolutely killed the rest of the top 10 there. 6/10 between myself and Norris. I'm looking like prime Max Verstappen right now when he outqualified Norris by 6/10 in Zandvoort. You know, that's actually unheard of, especially for a car which is supposed to be one of the worst cars on the grid. You know, we're still on 97 difficulty. We haven't lost this rivalry with Sainz yet. And in fact, if we can pick up a victory with fastest lap against everyone else and Sainz finishes off the podium, there is a chance, I think, that we might be able to still at least draw this rivalry. I don't know if we can win it anymore unless he has a DNF. But yeah, there is a chance that we could still draw the rivalry, which means we could stay at 97 AI, which, given that we've had 2 DNFs during this rivalry period, that's some pretty good going, I would say. And yeah, I'm very, very enthusiastic. We'll see. Can we hold on for 31 laps at the Singapore Grand Prix?
The spectacular backdrop of the Singapore skyline, something of an endurance race ahead with the notorious sauna-like temperatures for the drivers. It makes it a very physical contest out there. Welcome back to Marina Bay for the Singapore Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Robinson lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Russell, Joe, Albon, Leclerc, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Ocon, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Hauger, Tsunoda, Perez, Verstappen, Gasly, Sargent, Fittipaldi, and Nick de Vries. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. Joined once again by Anthony Davidson for this one. And there's a lot of incidents on track recently for this driver. No one does that on purpose. It is part and parcel of racing, though.
It's not an ideal situation by any means. When you get into a bad run like that, there's always the risk of frustration creeping in, which can cause more mistakes and locks you into this vicious cycle. Hopefully today they can get through turn 1 cleanly and stay calm for the rest of the race.
Well, I hope they weren't talking about me being involved in loads of incidents, because actually I feel like I've kept things fairly clean. I know obviously we got that front wing damage in Belgium, which didn't help on our initial stint. But generally speaking, I feel like I've not been terrible. You know, the 2 failures we've had recently have not been due to my own driving. They've been due to mechanical issues, which is not something I'm in too much control of, other than to just invest in what we can when we can. But yeah, it's not really my fault, I wouldn't say, that we're in the situation we're in. Either way, we come to the end of the formation lap now. We get a very good parking, and that is going to hopefully help us to get a good launch and hold on to this P1 through the first few corners. I do think I'm going to be under a lot of pressure. I have 3 incredibly fast drivers in faster cars behind me, and I don't think it is going to be easy by any means to try and keep them behind. But we'll see whether we can keep them behind or not as we get ready to go for the Singapore Grand Prix. As the lights come on and the lights go out, and we've gotten away well compared to Norris, compared to Alonso. Russell's had a terrible start. He's been passed by Joe and Albon, and we are through, and we are still in the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix through the first few corners. That's probably one of the hardest moments that's going to be. We're definitely going to be coming under a lot of pressure from Norris and Alonso going throughout this race. You know, we are in one of the worst cars on the grid. There is no hope for us that we're just going to be able to pull away from these guys and take things cleanly. But, you know, I'll do everything I can. It's not an easy track to overtake at. I actually think I have a pretty good chance of winning this. If I get the strategy absolutely right, then I think there is every chance in the world that we could be able to defend from these guys for 31 laps. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be, you know, it's going to take a lot of concentration and focus and perfection, precision, driving the right racing lines all the time. But there is every chance in the world that I could walk away with my 2nd win in Formula 1 if I were to do this now, and that is not something I expected to say this season. You know, I feel like we'd kind of tailed off a little bit performance-wise. I definitely didn't expect to see myself leading a Formula 1 Grand Prix again before the end of the season, when we got some more sort of investments and stuff like that. But as we find ourselves coming through the final few corners of the lap, you know, we're into the final sector. You can see we've actually pulled away from Lando Norris. We are over a second ahead of him now, and we've already broken out of his DRS range. So if we can keep up this level of pace for the entire Grand Prix, then actually we could have the chance to do something rather spectacular here. I really didn't see this coming. But yeah, we are currently in P1, 1.2 seconds ahead of the nearest car after the first lap. And all of a sudden, it's looking like we might be able to dominate this. However, as we move on to lap 4, you can see that there is something which is going to start becoming an issue for me very soon, and that is tyre temperatures, which was ironic because I was struggling so much on the first lap to heat up the tyres in the first place to make sure I could have a good launch. I did manage it in the end, but it was not easy. But now, as we make our way through the lap, you can see that we are pushing 112 degrees Celsius, 113 at times. This is definitely falling outside the operating window for the tyres, and that is going to allow Norris, if he can keep his tyre temperatures under control, to reel me back in just a little bit. You can see on that lap he only made up a few tenths, but all he needs is a few tenths every lap. You know, he's close enough, and we've got long enough left in the race that he could definitely, conceivably, pull back towards me and apply pressure. As we move on to lap 10, he hasn't really applied any pressure yet. You know, I've been managing to maintain him behind by just burning a good amount of the battery and, you know, taking the corners as well as I can for someone whose tyres are overheating. We've also got to contend with the fact that we've got a pretty worn-out gearbox as well, which isn't great. But at the moment, it's not giving us any particular problems. So we'll see what happens with regards to the gearbox. But yeah, for now, I think that we actually do have a very good chance to defend this. It seems like I'm managing the race very well. We've not had really any pressure applied from Lando Norris so far. And yeah, I'm very, very optimistic about our chances here. If we get the pit strategy right, the pit stops are coming up in just a few laps time, like 4 or 5 laps, I would say. If we can get that right, then we'll be a-okay. At this point, a few people have started to pit. The Red Bulls and one of the Williamses there as well has pitted. So yeah, this was me kind of thinking to myself, the fact that I was doing lap times which were 5 seconds slower than my best lap. I was thinking to myself, maybe I should pit 1 lap early at this point. Norris did actually apply a little bit of pressure to me on that occasion. He was pretty close. He was only about a tenth behind or something, but he still wasn't close enough to try and go for a move. But yeah, I really was wondering at this point. The tyres were really starting to go off. I think they were like in the 40s or 50s. I was thinking now might be a good time. We can box 1 lap early, and then maybe we can kind of go for, not an undercut, but we can kind of go for a strategy which will allow us to maybe break away from Norris and Alonso a little bit here. You can see Joe and Albon obviously quite far afield. I don't think I need to worry about them too much. But yeah, other drivers I do think I may have to at least pay somewhat attention to. You know, like the Red Bulls and stuff. If they're going to potentially be going for an undercut, I think now might be a good idea to come in. So that's what I've done. And I'm going to be putting on the hard compound tyres to the end of the race. Will we be able to break away from Norris and Alonso? We will find out as we come out of the pits whether that proves to be the case or not. You can see that Fittipaldi is currently ahead of Verstappen. Goes to show that the Red Bulls are having an absolutely shocking race, really. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where these guys come out in just a second, because they are only a few seconds behind me. And as we move to the end of the lap now, you can see that everyone else, or not everyone else, but a lot of other cars are coming in, including Norris and Alonso. They both came in, and we're going to see what the gap is going to be like. It's definitely more than it was before. It was only a few tenths before we came into the pits, and now it is looking like it's going to be a lot more than that. The gap to Alonso is more than 5 seconds. It seems like Norris might have had a slow stop or something, because he's been jumped by both Fittipaldi and Verstappen. He's going to be very frustrated about that. That means that Verstappen has pulled off probably about a 10-car undercut looking at this. If he's ahead of Norris, who was running in 3rd, then that means that, yeah, I think Verstappen has legitimately undercut about 10 or more cars, because he was definitely not in the top 10 before the pit stop phase. Everyone else comes into the pits now, and we're going to see exactly what impact this has had. I think Albon has maybe screwed himself a little bit by not pitting earlier. You know, he was racing with Joe. He was in like P5, I think, and now he's definitely fallen quite significantly far away from that. And we've had a mechanical failure. We were absolutely leading this race. We were dominating this race, and the car has broken down again for the 3rd time in 5 races. I can't believe it. We were killing this race. We had killed this race. All we had to do was just maintain pace over Alonso for a few more laps, and everything would have been fine. We had 12 laps to go in this race, and all we had to do was just maintain the pace we were showing. He'd only brought it back by about 5 tenths or so over the course of a few laps. There was no way he was catching me with the pace I was showing on those hard compound tyres. But the race is done. It's over for us, and our chance of getting a second win this season is fully out the door. I am absolutely devastated. I can't believe that. This was our chance to really wrap up P6 in the championship, and it's gone.
They've endured the harsh conditions here in Singapore then to pull off a spectacular victory. Natalie, fill us in. What was it that helped the team achieve their success today?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
It's time to present the top drivers with their trophies for today's Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people in the paddock very happy with this result. It's Aston Martin on the top step.
Yep, Fernando Alonso picks up another victory this season and continues to extend his championship lead. It was actually George Russell who somehow managed to find his way back onto the podium as Max Verstappen fell off the podium, which I can't believe I'm saying. But yeah, he wasn't there. Norris picks up P3. That's terrible news for us because it means that they're going to close us down quite significantly in the constructors' standings as we fail to score points as a result of my DNF. And yeah, I mean, a good result for exciting championship, but a bad result
so
for us.
Let's see how the drivers' standings have changed. It's a great result for Fernando Alonso, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
I think it has to be Fernando Alonso. He got the strategy spot on and consistently had the pace to come through as well.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Unbelievable. I know that obviously we're lacking a little bit in the durability department and we still need to get upgrades and all this kind of thing, but 3 DNFs in 5 races, I feel like at this point we have to start calling into question whether we're with the right engine supplier. You know, I had affiliation with Renault because I thought it would be best for the team. You know, we could save more money this way, but the amount of money we're losing from all of these DNFs has got to call into question whether this partnership with Renault is right. And I think if it happens again this season, I definitely will be switching, but I might anyway, who knows. Yeah, just an absolutely gutting race for us. A surefire victory snatched from us in the most crushing way. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.